Did you ever question that your bike needs a tune-up? Have you had it tuned up and it's like not a lot right, or like you're wondering what the heck did they do? Yeah, well, some of the bigger chain locations, I'm not going to say any with the big T or the big S, anywho, not going there-ish. But those particular service departments may have like a holistic entry-level bike tune-up. This you can actually do yourself. I'm going to show you the 5 tips with a bonus at the end. In addition to the cost of the tune-up itself, you basically can buy your tools cheaper and continue to do so yourself. Let's review after this. Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles.
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hi, I'm Justin the guy. Obviously, I have a garage shop. Taking scary how to use bikes one bike at a time.
If you like these videos, please like and subscribe. Hi, welcome back to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging with the guy. Hey, I'm Justin the guy on this old bike series. Well, tune-ups, right? Everybody kind of questions that. You got tune-ups for your car, your skis, your whatever you want to apply it. What is a tune-up? Well, a lot of these tune-ups, well, the descriptions are very minimal for the level 1, entry-level tune, basic tune, minor tune, however that shop wants to coin it. And when you're looking at more of the big bad chain stores that have multiple, I'm talking about shops that have more than probably 10 locations, they're really gonna have more of a blanket entry-level tune where you're really not getting anything but a holistic look over. Back in the day of Parker bikes in the 90s, we would call that a safety check, and that would be free, or a very minor tune, which would be like 25 bucks. Well, inflation today definitely has brought the prices up with tune-ups. I understand the cost of some level in shops and so forth where they have to support their staff, and they're going to try to upsell you to the next level of tune-up as addition to parts as well as a service rider. So check out one of those videos that I've talked about as a topic. This particular one, I'm going to identify 5 things that you can do yourself and the tools that you may need to buy, but those ones that you're buying you can actually keep, and I believe at the end of this video the price of those particular tools will not exceed the basic $70, $80, $100 tune-up that their chain locations are trying to sell, right? So let's dive into this. All right, first and foremost, you got to understand what your bike is. Your bike is built up of 3 different things: the frame and fork, the componentry, shifting and braking, and the wheels. So within those 3 points, you got 5 things basically you need to address. Number 1 is cleaning. Well, yeah, you ever take your car to the car wash and it just seems to run better, or if you detail it in your driveway, give it a little of that TLC and it's gonna feel like it's gonna go down the road a lot. Bikes are the same way. They love to be touched up and cleaned up and that kind of thing. So keep in mind, cleanliness is next to good ridingness. So I look at cleaning the frame in 3 different steps. 1, removing the grime. 2, removing the actual surface of that grime and the actual detail. So you first do the first wipe and the second wipe. Then you want to put a little bit of light coating on the outside of protection to shed either water and so forth. Note, when you're using any kind of spray bottle, aerosol, and anything, you want to apply it to a rag. Do not directly spray it onto the bike. Reason being is those little vapors, even high concentrated you may be, are going to float around, and if you have disc brakes, they're going to get on those. It's going to get in the areas where you don't want that particular chemical to be on, either the degreaser or the lube, whatever. Best not. If you're going to spray it, take it off the bike to actually spray it down. So that entails a whole bunch of high-level detailing and tech, but just by cleaning, just spray it on the rag. I have Purple Power mixed with water my first go around. What this does is just takes the grime off the frame And here we go. All right, once we get to that level, the extra little detailing you can do is just floss these areas, each one of them, like around the spokes, that kind of thing. I like to clean the spoke as well as the rim and kind of wipe down the hub, just like give your bike a whole little wipe down. That's a great way to start. Reason being, number one, you're inspecting as you're cleaning, which is a great way to start. Right, so we're making sure we're double checking all those parts. All right, on to phase 2. Pardon the interruption, there is more. More you say? Push the more button. Push it, push it. I dare you to push it. Once you push that button, you get more details about the video you are watching, in addition to all the tools that I use in the shop, as well as suggestion for improving your ride. In addition to help me provide advocacy in the cycling community, also links to other social media accounts as well as my website to find the products I actually sell and other insights in the industry. Other videos linked below. Extend your cycling experience here on YouTube. And now back to your original programming. All right, phase 2, tires and wheels. So we're going to dive into this 1/3 of your bike. Number one, you want to wipe off and inspect your tire for any extra wear, cuts, dry rot, all those kinds of things. In addition to, you should already be doing this, but you look for the SPI rating, which is the range of the tire pressure that you want to put there. There, you want to air up your tires to that air pressure level. The second thing you're going to do is inspect that rim and see how it places itself with the brake pads. If you don't have brake pads like this, you have a disc, you could take a zip tie and with that extra little, zip it around your chainstay, and where that extra little flap is, you can actually use that as your guide. And if you need to touch up your wheel, I want to do a full true, but maybe just a little true, then you just use a spoke wrench. These particular wheels use this type of spoke wrench, but you have your standard multi-spoke wrench where you can just do quarter turns to move the rim back and forth that are not hitting your brake pads. So inspect the tires, make sure they hold up to air, tubes are good, tires are ready, and check for trueness for that brake or for the wheel for the braking surface. And if it's a disc, you want to clean off that rotor, not the actual pads. Just wipe the rotor down with rubbing alcohol. Well, number 3 is brakes and shifting. So we're look at the brakes here. When you're looking at the brake calipers for road, you want to have a good feel equalization between both the right and the left. And when you need to adjust that, you can adjust that by releasing this cable, pulling it, and tightening it down. Also, you want to look at your brake pads and make sure they are equal and flush with the brakes. So doing this, you're making sure it's contacting the rim equally on both sides. On these particular brakes, there's a little screw here. This is designed to tighten and loosen. That moves the brake pads back and forth. Therefore, you want to make sure they are equally pressurized and when you actually hit your brakes and they're smooth. Disc brakes, they have their own, and there's some other funky ones, old school, like the old calipers and so forth, V-brakes. Those are other videos to follow. All right, let's talk shifting. Shifting scares a lot of people. But basically, you want to knock your gear down to the smallest cog in the back, starting with the rear first. Then you just want to shift it up 1 notch. And if it doesn't engage, if it hesitates, you can do this barrel adjuster, unscrew it a quarter of a turn. Everything you want to do adjustments like a quarter turn, a quarter half turn, that kind of thing, and test it back and forth to go up. And same thing going down, you want to make sure it hits all the gears by adjusting that cable. 90% of the time when we're adjusting derailleurs, we're really not monkeying around with the limit screws and the cable tension and so forth by just doing the barrel adjuster. If you do need to use the limit screws, lows for low, highs for high, and then you can adjust that limits in and out. If you start playing with these, look at a separate video of just how to adjust the derailleur, but that specifically is just something just to check. Most likely they're still in tune from your last season. You just want to make sure that housing didn't get boogered up or the cable tinge didn't get boogered up off season. In addition to how to lube your chain. If you're using a liquid lube and not wax, this is wax, but if you're using a liquid lube, you're going to aim for the middle of the chain itself and apply a drop to each chain link as you're going backwards and rotate it 3 times. 3 times coats the chain once. And once you do that, go through your gears, up and down. And if you have any excess, you take a rag and wipe off all the excess. Like so. And for the front, you just, basically your extreme. So you're going to the big cog in the back. Then you want to check your small up front. This one's a triple. And you want to make sure it drops down like so. And it definitely goes cross chain. Then you check your small in the back. Then you make sure it goes up to the top. Ah, mine wants to jump off. In that case, I need to tighten my limit screw here for the out, just a 1/4 turn. Gets it right in place, so you're kind of fine-tuned. So that's pretty much it. 90% of the time for that low-level tune-up, we're just lubing the chain, double-checking the tensions of the cables, and making sure those limit screws are not throwing back and forth. That's a pretty quick 5-second, well, let's just say a couple minute little adjustment. But that's really all they're doing. Okay, the other one, number 4, is lubing the little moving parts. Same kind of thing. I like to use the Tri-Flow Superior Lube and put just a little drop on all those little pivots and also on the front derailleur. What this is doing is kind of flushing out the old and putting in a new little layer of lube on there to clean up. Then you take your rag and wipe off any excess. You want to make sure you're not using a spray that gets everywhere, and also on the brakes you want to check those too. So on the brakes you want to be a little more careful. Reason being is you don't want to contaminate your brake pads. So if you want to do a little drop on the pivots, that's fine. Just a little drop, light and polite, and then you take your rag and wipe off the excess. And double check it, make sure it's engaging just fine. And the 5th thing you want to do once you got your brakes, your shifting done, your braking's good, your wheels are true, your tires are up to pressure, you want to double check all your bolts. They say this in a lot of them, like for Torx, which is basically a tool similar to this, and you want to make sure all the bolts are at the Torx specification, especially if you have one of those higher end, newer carbon bikes with like carbon bars and so forth. They'll have those Torx specifications. You get a kit like this, which is pretty expensive, or you can get the inexpensive version like the little notch ones and just tighten them up till they click into place, like so. And when you do these, you want to equally tighten these up at the same rate. In other words, you don't want to over tighten one till it clicks, then you equally increase those. Reason being is you get that bolts flush on all 4 or 2 locations, and then you hear that click. So a lot of these will have a specified number, say Newton meters. These are 5, same for the back here, and then there's other ones to look for. Or the most important ones you'll see for most cases is the stem and handlebars and seat post, and also the crank. On this particular crank, it does have a 2-side Newton meter bolt, which I use the tools from Parks, and this goes to 10 to 15 Newton meters. Then I can get it to notch on the other side here. Well, keep in mind, a lot of these tools can get really expensive for yourself as just a novice tinkerer, and you're probably only going to use this maybe once in a while, once a year, by just double checking. You can get yourself the inexpensive ones. The reason why these are more expensive, they just keep more in tuned on a longer rate. Just keep in mind you back it back off to 0 when you're done using it. Even the inexpensive ones will probably last you a long time. So you can go to Harbor Freight or get it on Amazon, whatever the case may be. The only reason I have the more expensive ones, I pretty much use them every day. Therefore, I want them to last a little longer. Plus, they look prettier on my tool wall, just to be kind of selfish. Yes, I know there's going to be some debate about this, like, well, my bike shop does this, 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 or whatever the case may be. But quite honestly, when you look at a wall at the shop with their price list and the details on it, that usually that first entry-level tune is pretty minimal. Sometimes they really are just kind of a holistic kind of verbiage. It's like you have to ask those questions. What am I paying 80 bucks for, or 90 bucks, or 100 bucks for? They'll just blurb out a list. And yeah, it does cover a safety check and so forth. There is a need for it. Obviously, there's people that just don't want to do this on their own, or they may not have a way to hang their bike up, which you can use a less expensive bike repair stand, which you can get for like 20 or 50 bucks, or you can just hang it with some rope and hooks and just hook it here and here, therefore at the seat and handlebars, and you can just get elevated so you can work on it. You can still kind of do these things just on the ground as well, but it is a little bit easier to hang it to be able to do those things. Well, yeah, there's one of those things where when you're a bike mechanic and you're in a high volume perspective and environment, if the wheels don't need to be trued, you don't do it. But you're not crediting that customer somewhere else. Well, for me personally, I'm doing as much as I can to help out those particular individuals for their bike and so forth. So I put a little more attention to detail. There lies the difference between your locally owned bike shop or mechanic that runs the shop out of his garage or a van versus a big production corporate bike department. They have policies and procedures. They're turning and burning. 24-hour turnaround. There's going to be some corners cut, I guarantee you. When you look at the individual like myself, I'm going to put a little more attention to detail. So if you're going to vet that less expensive tune-up, go that direction. Hopefully you have something in your local neighborhood. Not to dog on the big bad chain stores too much, but hey, they have a job to do, and it's just turning and burning. Yeah, you can do it yourself. That's the point, right? You got some minimal tools purchases that you may already have, but quite honestly, what did I just go over? A pump. Yeah, you probably already have this, but that's a $20 to $50 lift for a higher pressure, or you can go lower pressure if you have like a 65 PSI. Spoke wrenches, these are between 10 to 15 bucks. This one's to hold the bladed spokes, so you might have to get that if it's a fancier one. An Allen wrench or Allen kit, these are between 15 to 20. Nicer ones are 30. What else did I do? Screwdriver, you probably already have this, but let's say you don't. It's a couple bucks. A little extra bottle of lube. These are like $5 for the little, 5 to 10 for the small bottles. Your little cleaner, you can actually use Windex. That's actually underneath your kitchen sink. Extra rags, some torn up t-shirts if need be. Then you have this here, the stand. I can guarantee you the Torx, these are probably the more expensive lift. These will probably run you 20 to 30 bucks depending on the brand and the lesser expensive. They can go up to a lot higher, but you don't need to go that route. So basically with those minimal amount of tools, I guarantee you the price is going to be lower than 100 bucks and you can do it yourself. And also the benefit, the big bonus benefit of this is you're getting in tune while tuning your bike. Why? Well, you knowing how it feels when it brakes, when it shifts. If you notice that tire, you keep an eye on that. The wheel might be a little out of true and so forth. And if you go down that rabbit hole and you have a hard time getting it true, then you could pay for those one-off repairs, truing a wheel, adjusting your bottom bracket, adjusting the headset. So you're not paying for the full tune-up. You're just doing the ones that you feel like didn't work out or not confident yourself of doing. Therefore, the rest of the bike is tuned up and ready to go. And then since you're in tune with your bike, when you're out there for that longer ride and something goes wrong, you're going to be a little more skilled in maybe addressing that issue with a little multi-tool that you have in your pack that the salesperson sold you, and then be able to actually use it to actually continue your ride, or either at least get back home or somewhere you can make a phone call, like so. So here's the bonus. Okay, I cleaned out the frame. Basically, I stripped it from any kind of protection, right? So what we're going to do is two things. One, we're going to take a surface cleaner. This one's from Lithium. And it's a surface cleaner that is designed to pull up any kind of little micro grime and all that from the frame. And you just basically take a rag. Like I said, you do not spray it directly onto the bike. And that's going to pull stains and grit and grime and help the actual clear coat of the bike to pop. And once you do that, that gives it a good clean surface to add the secret bonus. You ever thought that ceramicing your car, putting a ceramic coating to have all that water drip off? You can do it to your frame too. So this is ceramic slam from Lithium, but it's basically, you can use other brands too, but a ceramic coating. You put it on the applicator and you just apply it. And what that's going to do is really bring out the paint. So if you have one of those nicer paint jobs that you really enjoy seeing while riding, it's definitely going to bring that out. Well, besides just making it pretty, what it also does, if you get into like the bottom parts of the frame, it's going to help shed that water or drippage and dirty water and maybe even mud. It'll kind of shed it as it's contacting that frame. Well, what that does is kind of protects the frame. UV protects it as well. And this is also going to be applied to your little rubber parts and plastic parts and trim in addition to. Makes it a little bit nicer shine, but is actually protecting it. So more so protecting than making it pretty. You do one coat, wait 5 minutes, do another application, wait another 5 minutes, do another application, and you can finish up with a fiber cloth to kind of polish it. But what that's going to do is really protect the frame, especially those nicer paint jobs. And if you need to get into a little nittier or gritty corners, you can either fold these up to get into those areas, which you can probably pretty well do. If not, you can take a cloth like the fiber cloth and kind of floss it in there if you really want to get in that detail. This way, bike's tuned up basically, basic, level 1, entry level, whatever you may want to call it. They don't even take the wheels off. You can if you need to, check those hubs and so forth, but that kind of tune-up is what you're paying for 70 to 100 bucks at that big bad chain store. So hopefully that brings kind of some incitement on this, and check out other videos that I have linked below to help you fine-tune those brakes, derailleurs, and extend your cycling riding experience. Thank you for hanging out with me in the garage. Until next time, if it's nice in your neighborhood, go out there and go for a ride. Beautiful. Hair flowing in a ponytail, or a virtual ponytail. Let your ponytail be virtual and holistic, not the tune-up. Until next time, from the garage.